Hi. So up next, we have the Phygital Flywheel, presented by Sharon Weisman.
Thank you, Emily. Are you the people who don't eat lunch? And all the people who are having lunch, this is not Jewish guilt, but you can lunch and learn. Hey everyone, I'm Sharon Weisman. I'm super excited to be here and discuss a topic that we all want to ignore. Some of us want it to go away, but in the end of the day, Phygital is here to stay, and the transition, when it comes to the toy industry, content, and entertainment, there will be a marriage that will create a Phygital synergy between physical and digital. Who knows what Phygital is? Okay, good odds, good odds. I'd like to introduce this panel of experts that are very busy and made time to be here today. Don't laugh, I know you're busy, for 40 minutes. Sam, would you like to introduce yourself and say a few words?
Hi everyone, I'm Sam. I work at a company, Super League Gaming, where I lead up our metaverse products team. What we do is we help brands enter the metaverse. So if you're a brand looking to advertise in Roblox, Minecraft, and other games, we help you strategize. We also build tech and help you execute on that type of campaign.
Hey, my name's Michael Adler from VeVe. So VeVe is one of the world's biggest digital collectibles platform, working with some of the world's biggest IP, Disney, Marvel, Star Wars. I mean, we have hundreds of licenses. And our goal is to work with big IP to be able to bring collectibles in a very unique way, with a scarce way, with full interactivity for the masses.
Hello, Brian Trunzo, Head of Business Development for Polygon Labs. Polygon Labs is a foundation, it's a nonprofit foundation associated with the Polygon blockchain, which is one of the largest open source, permissionless, and public protocols upon which a lot of NFT and digital collectible platforms are built. In my remit, my team covers general purpose applications, so anything from gaming to metaverse to luxury, retail, entertainment, media, etc.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Mayer and I'm the founder and CEO of Beauties. Beauties had its early roots in Web3. So we started just 2 years ago. We just celebrated our 2-year birthday. But what we do is we are on a mission to remind women and girls that they can be everything they want to be. So I'll be sharing a little bit more through this panel, but something I'm really proud of is that we just onboarded Barbie into the world of Web3 with the very first digital Barbie dolls through digital collectibles. We had a lot of young girls, their moms, their grandmothers buying them with a credit card. So I'm really passionate about this topic today of how we bring the digital and physical world together and sharing a little bit about our mission and what we're doing in this space.
Beautiful. So humble. Everyone on this panel is so humble. These are the people who really were able to move the mission forward and create programs that create new revenue streams for these industries. And why are we here? We're here because kids are holding down a full-time tech job. They are spending an average of 7 hours in front of screens each day. They're more likely to ask you for your Wi-Fi passport than a new action figure in the future. Gen Alpha has 94% digital enthusiasts. That means gaming, that means watching gaming, that means blogging about gaming. And what we want to make sure is that we have a deep understanding of all the opportunities and we don't ignore them. Now, I am going to say the word NFT once. This is the only time I'm going to say that word. I recognize that in this realm, it is a bit of kryptonite. We don't want to touch it. We'll call it digital assets. And same as I don't tell my friends, oh my God, I just listened to the best MP3 yesterday. And I say I listened to Spotify or a track. I won't be saying I have an NFT. But that will be the format. The technology is not going away. Blockchain is here to stay, and there's different ways we can utilize it in play. When transitioning into digital play in the future, we want to make sure that there's an opportunity where lines are blurred, and we have, as brand owners or manufacturers, as many touch points as we can. So, Mike, I'm going to start with you. Because collectibles are at the heart of this industry. We're seeing a lot of trends like kidults when it comes to now more mature human beings admitting that they collect. 1 out of 4 men who collect anything in real life now collects digital assets and does have purchasing power. So how is VeVe changing that space when it comes to collectible in the digital world?
So I think one of the most important things is around ownership itself, and the uniqueness of owning something in a digital capacity. You have, to step back on the ownership side, it's tied to the blockchain, and it's really changed the way that collectors can have an asset in a very unique way that's immutable. The big issue around ownership is different than the physical world. In the physical world, you buy sneakers, you buy a Chanel bag, and you don't really know if that's authentic in a resale market. So for VeVe, the most important thing is being able to create value for brands in a unique way, and that is around digital aspects. And going back to what we're talking about from a phygital standpoint, really the key is if you're buying something and you want to resell it, you don't know if it's real or not. There's a lot of counterfeiting and everything else. In the digital world with specific collectibles, it's tied to a blockchain. It's tied to it's fully immutable. You know what you're getting. And then if you're going to flip it, trade it, you don't need intermediaries. And really the key for VeVe is be able to work with big IP in order to bring collectibles to the masses with some type of scarcity, not mass produced, and really it's global. So you'll be able to access collectibles anywhere in the world, and then a big part of it is the experience. It's interactivity, AR, and with the future around interoperability, being able to take it in games, out of games, there's so many use cases for
Right. And
general.
transfer the points, right? Can you imagine
Loyalty.
when in the future the ecosystem opens, right? And kids can take their FIFA points and transfer them to Roblox, and that get their ears pierced in the Claire's metaverse, so their avatar can wear new accessories, right? Sam, how do you feel about that? Will the ecosystem open, and how will there be transferable and probability opportunities?
Yeah, I think definitely, and we're already seeing it actually. So an increasing number of brands are launching different clothing items in Roblox, for example, and those are tied directly to physical goods. And we also see that in the other direction as well, brands launching physical goods that reward you with a digital good. So I think we see interoperability from physical to digital. And then, I haven't seen a lot of Roblox to other platforms yet, but the infrastructure is there to do that type of thing. And yeah.
I agree. Does anyone know how many active monthly users there are in Roblox? Yael?
Where was Sharon and I Friday, 250 million.
Shameless plug-in. She was on a previous panel of mine. 250 million active users. Okay? That is insane. And if we're ignoring this, there are many opportunities where we don't understand how many people are spending in-game, and when the ecosystem opens, how do we create the right strategic partnerships to obey that and make sure that we're part of the conversation? Lisa, switching gears a bit, why is it so important to target women and usher them safely into this world? Aren't they playing anyway? Gaming is up, 74% women now. Why women, and why into Web3?
Yeah, no, absolutely. First of all, I was talking to my nieces. I was, having a conversation about Boss Beauties recently, and I looked down at their iPads, and they're in Roblox, right? You had said 250 million monthly active users, I believe it was, and I think it's around 60 million daily active users, and I believe 47%, I know it's just under 50% of those are under 13, right? So we know that the next generation is already living in this digital world, and it's so important that we bring women and girls into into this space, right, to set them up to have careers in this industry, right? We want to make sure that they're ready for the career opportunities that will be coming up, so that they're not left behind like they might have been in finance or other areas of tech. Some of the things that we're doing at Boss Beauties is we're really making it accessible and connected to their daily life. We partnered this past year with NARS Cosmetics. We worked with the #1 blush brand, which sells the most blush. I know, Yael, you would give me the exact stat on this, I believe. But we partnered with NARS, and we heard stories about girls that went to their moms. Some of these mothers wanted to get their daughters into Web3 for a long time. They were telling them about the blockchain, digital collectibles. And this partnership was the first time that many of those women heard their daughters say they were really excited to come into this industry and get their first NFT or digital collectible. So we're partnering with brands that they already love and see in the physical world. Maybe they buy their products, and helping to onboard them into this space in a way that's safe and accessible. You brought up safety. We just did a research report that studied people all over the world, I think in 13 countries, and we found that Gen Z girls shared that they didn't know the risks of this digital world more than boys. So, there's a lot about safety, and we want to make sure that parents are learning about this space too, so that they can help onboard their kids as well.
I love how proactive you guys are and really supporting everything with data and research and ushering women safely, understanding that there will be so many jobs in this realm, and that's really all we want for our kids. In theory, all this sounds great. I can see your faces. Brian represents the technological side of everything. This technology will eventually enable us to do seamless operations and perform differently in the virtual world, blurring those lines. Brian, how do you see play changing in the future from a technology standpoint?
That's a deep question. I think there's no limitation. I think the limitation is our imagination of how play can change with technology. We've seen this time and again as new technologies present themselves to people who are playing, whether they're children or adults. I think one of the most interesting things about blockchain and Web3, how it intercedes with playing, is the idea of phygital, this topic that we have here. And the term of art that we use in blockchain is dynamic NFTs, when you're thinking about how an NFT can be linked to a physical item, whether that's a plushy toy or a piece of apparel with NFC chips inside of them, whereby the person who owns this toy or this piece of apparel or whatever is the subject that we're talking about, can link that to a digital item in a metaverse or a virtual world, and then that item can dynamically change over time to reflect that which that person is doing in the physical world, right? So this idea that if I wear this jacket to a concert, and then I go to a basketball game, and then I go to another sort of like quest-driven behavior from a brand, every time I scan that at the door, I earn points, and then the digital item actually levels up over time, right? So this idea can be transported to toys, to anything that has some sort of NFC chip in it that can be scanned to represent a different digital item in a metaverse or in a gaming environment. And I think that goes to the core of play and also to collectability, right? This idea of sort of showcasing what you have purchased or earned, this idea of showing your clout, this idea of leveling up. So I think your imagination is really the only thing that limits the possibility in this new sort of phygital world.
I can't agree more. And isn't it great not to carry a wallet, just to have your phone? Does anyone know what NFC is? Raise your hand. Okay, NFC is a fancy acronym for me walking into my favorite coffee shop, going, "Can I please have a caramel oat latte?" The barista saying yes. I go, boop, and then there's a transaction. Seamless. I don't know what happened. Again, I don't care about the technology. Brian, cover your ears. For us, it's about the seamless transaction that was made available to me at that moment, where I did boop, and she gave me my oat latte, right? And that will happen seamlessly and bring us to whole new levels when it comes to phygital. Mike, you just signed, kind of piggybacking on everything Brian just mentioned, you just signed a big deal with Funko. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Really bringing everything he just said to life in a very tangible way. Do you want to talk a bit about that deal and how that will translate into retail?
Look, the key has always been for VeVe to figure out how to bridge the worlds, physical and digital. We really want to stay in the digital lane for the longest time, but a lot of our IP brands really came to us and they really felt that the physical aspect is really the key. My son, 12 years old, spends 10 hours a day on Roblox. If I bring a physical toy to him, he loves it, which is great. But how can you merge the two worlds, and how can you create additional value? So for us, if you look at a virtual collectible, it can be a programmable asset where it can be upgraded and changed over time, which you can't do with a physical aspect. And that's one thing that we're testing, is that unlocking value, but being able to come up with upgrades, changes. In the digital world is easier with a virtual collectible. Like for example, one of our big clients is Lamborghini. So being able to come up with new hubcaps and new ways for you to upgrade your digital collectible, unlike in the physical world, when you get something, you probably can't upgrade it, easy, and share and all that. So this Funko deal is really
Sharing.
a
I'll
must.
stop you on that. 1 second. Sharing. That's big, right? If I have something in the real world, I can invite all my peeps to my room and show them that, but I can flex it in the virtual world in front of so many like-minded entities that are with me in this digital realm, right? So shareable is a big part
Really
of it.
tapping into a community where you can see other people around the world that have like-minded, like what you're doing, or like collecting wise, or your fandom. That's a big part of the virtual world, or virtual collectibles, being able to, play on that fandom and community, which is the most important thing for brands. It's engagement. It's how can we engage our community, reward them, but give them something of value that could be used today or down the road. And that's really a big part of this Funko deal that we're doing.
Let's go the other way around. Sam, you guys have a metaverse on Roblox for Claire's. So bringing the in real life into Roblox where kids can interact in different ways. I'm going to tread lightly because we all have strategic partnerships with Roblox. They're a beast. They're not going away. It's wonderful. I will call bullshit on the fact that they only target kids 13 and older. We don't know who opened that profile. We don't know who is actually playing. But for you guys, it's really important to figure out where the next generations come into Roblox and how they interact safely. Do you want to talk a bit about that, Dale, and how
Yeah,
that's
totally.
performing?
So I'm glad you brought up Claire's in the context of over and under 13, because Roblox recently added a rule that you can't target ads towards anyone under the age of 13, which is very reasonable. But a lot of brands we were working with previously, many toy brands, then felt like the rug was pulled out from under them. Like the main reason they were on Roblox was for this audience, and they no longer knew how to reach them. And we worked with Claire's on this challenge, and the strategy we aligned on was, rather than thinking of advertising from day one, we said, how do we just build a presence for your brand and your IP in this space so players can organically engage with you? And then what you're doing is not advertising, you're content building. If you build a game, that's not inherently an ad, that is just content for people on the platform. So with Claire's, we built this standalone experience that can reach all ages on the platform. They launched some new IP in that platform. And then, in addition to being this organic thing that, players of all ages are engaging with, they've also now built out the real estate to advertise specific products. So, when they do launch a new product, they don't have to pay anyone else to advertise on the platform. They can advertise in their own experience where there's already organic traffic.
Yeah. And Lisa, reversing the vector again, I know we're under a gazillion NDAs, so I won't talk about anything we can't talk about. But how does Boss Beauty figure out the marketing message when you now bring a digital native IP that is beautiful and has a strong, strong messaging into brick and mortar?
Absolutely. I love this question. So I've been thinking a lot about this, and our team has recently. You know, we were born in this digital space 2 years ago. Again, we just celebrated our second birthday, and entering this space on the digital side allowed us to quickly enter Web3 very rapidly. But now, as we think about expanding, that digital to physical component is so incredibly important. And what we've noticed is that, yes, people want that digital component. They want the gamification. I love that you can update a digital collectible, right? The metadata, and you can edit it quickly. But being able to tie it to the physical component, to a physical product, consumers get that. Right? Does that help you? If anyone's confused about Web3, tying a digital asset to a physical asset, raise your hand if that makes it feel a little more tangible to you, right? So one thing that we are doing is now when we launch a digital asset or digital collectible, we're thinking about physical products that we can launch. There's a product that has a digital asset that will be tied to physical posters that we'll be launching. I can't share who that's with, but later this year. I'm giving you a little alpha too. We are actually, no one knows this yet, so if you're here, you're finding out first. We are announcing an acquisition tomorrow of another company, and that company has a digital asset that every time someone from their community participates in a certain event or maybe attends something that they're hosting in person, that digital asset will get a charm. And so it's really gamified, and we found that that community, they love, it's like surprise and delight. They look at their digital collectible, and they have a new charm, right? It's exciting. But we'll be tying that digital collectible to a physical product to bring it all together. And who doesn't want to collect more charms and collect more things that show you attended something, right? So we'll be gamifying it and bringing that digital to physical. Right. And we found that people are excited for that. It makes sense to them, right? To see that digital to physical.
All elements we know, right? I see everyone nodding. You do it already. You do it in real life. The question is how you build that bridge. And going back to the technology of building that bridge, Brian, do you think that in the future there'll be third parties that will just, pop up and regulate that space and make sure that it's safe for kids and it's safe for people who now have funny money in a wallet that doesn't exist, kind of lowering the thresholds? Or would the brand owners and manufacturers have to take it into their own hands and build those bridges?
This is a difficult question that persists in more open and decentralized virtual worlds. So the further away you move from a walled garden that can have terms of service, that can enforce it with their staff and make sure that people are playing by the rules, the more difficult this is in these open worlds, right? So to think of like Sandbox, Decentraland, Spatial, certain Web3 native platforms where anyone can just sign in with a wallet, right? And a wallet is your sort of digital ID in a way. You can remain undoxed. You don't have to prove your identity. That's a very tense discussion, right?
Thanks for jumping on that grenade, because I know that was not an easy one.
It's like, how do you figure that out, right? I think over time regulators will pay more attention to it, and that's I'm happy I'm not a regulator trying to figure that out. So this is a bit of a cop-out answer. I think it necessarily must be regulated in some sort of way, but as long as you can join a platform undoxed without an identity and it's open and decentralized, it's a tricky environment to operate in.
That is so true. I'll tell you what, did anyone here try out Walmart Discovered, their new metaverse on Roblox? No one? Okay, I'm going to call you out, guys. The biggest challenge is that a lot of us are headline readers. We're not partitioners. We don't play. We don't try it ourselves. We don't make our teams try it out. Manufacturers, be wary. The brands are on board. The retailers are definitely on board. Walmart is now making sure that they also collect all the data. What do kids like to play with? What's their favorite pet's toy? What do you like doing? What is your favorite toy? They are collecting all that data and making sure that they make smart decisions. It will make it very hard on you to then convince them otherwise. Right? Okay, moving on. I knew these would come in handy. Lisa, where does the next generation find you? You know, it used to be that a lot of kids find new IPs and discover new entities and brands in the toy aisles, at FAO Schwartz, at Toys R Us. Where do they find you now?
Yeah, I mean, some of the partnerships we've had have been one way that the next generation has founded us. I mentioned the partnership with NARS, right? Where we heard so many stories of moms that were in Web3. Maybe they were part of the Boss Beauties community and they had gotten involved in our community and they were trying to tell their daughters, their kids about Web3, and they just were not getting it and getting excited. But then that partnership helped to onboard new people. I believe, I'd have to look at the exact number, but I believe that it was around 25,000 new wallets that were set up with our NARS partnership, where people that had not had a digital wallet on MetaMask set up their very first wallet and got their very first digital collectible through that partnership. Again, it's a brand that they might love. Maybe they use NARS cosmetics and then they saw that they were entering the Web3 space. So a lot of our early traction in reaching new consumers has certainly been with our partners. Even with Barbie, we heard so many stories. I was at a Barbie booth we had at VCon, and we had this booth, and people were coming up, parents, and showing them the Barbie Boss Beauties digital collectibles, and girls were downloading and getting their first digital collectible of a Barbie Boss Beauty. And buying it with a credit card, like I said. So that has been a way that we've reached more people early on. But yeah, Elle and our team and everybody at the Boss Beauties team, and then now through this acquisition that I've shared with you, there's a lot that we have in the works that will reach new consumers. And some of it is through parents, right? We did this research report asking parents, what are the risks that they see in this new digital world? What are their concerns? So we're really bringing parents along with us on that journey as well.
Let's not forget the ultimate gatekeepers, right? Parents.
I'm mad. You're looking
Yeah.
at influencers and TikTok. I mean, my kids have a 12-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old, and all day on TikTok, they come to me, they say, hey, buy me this, get me that, but they're learning from that, and really influencers.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, do you know First Digital?
Yep.
I mean, she's built a humongous platform for mothers and kids on new products. Incredible. 250 million reach on a monthly basis. So it's got to be more than just, it's
Yeah.
got to be social platforms.
Totally. Yep.
Sure.
100%.
So not only the kids are changing, right? The gatekeepers, the parents,
Yeah.
they're changing, right? The new parents are scrolling TikTok in one hand and holding a toddler in the other, right? So if we asked where younger generations find out about our RPs, Sam, where do parents find us? Like how do we get by that? Like how do we, these are generations that are looking online on YouTube and social media for recommendations and reviews and validation and new products. How do we talk to them?
It's the third parent.
Yeah. Something that I think is very funny is everyone at my company, Super League, the way they heard about Roblox, Minecraft is through their kids. And it's usually when their kid is asking for money to buy something on the platform.
Oh, yeah.
So I think for most parents, it's, what is our credit card number? That's when you first hear about these platforms. And I actually think that is an effective way. Like if you're on these platforms selling things to kids, like that might be your first touch point with the parent. And thinking about expanding that offering to the parent. Like how do you educate kids to articulate the value of the power up they want to buy in a game to their parent? That could be an interesting strategy.
Manufacturers, how many times did a buyer tell you they want that certain IP or brand because their kids play it, right? No data, just gut instinct, just personal affinity because my kid loves it, right? You don't really know, kind of like with Netflix where we don't know all the data, we don't necessarily know what the data is behind how many kids are playing what and when. Sam, can you talk a bit about the data as we prove to buyers and parents, like who's playing what, demographics? How do we get more data?
Yeah. One of the first products that I worked on at my company was an analytics tool for Roblox. We built the first third-party analytics tool. And the gap that we were filling was brands were starting to advertise in Roblox, and they didn't know who they were reaching. They didn't know the demographics. They didn't know how many people. They didn't know how long players were engaging with them. So we built out an analytics platform that showed you, what country users are coming from, how long do they engage with their content, things like that. And we've continued to invest in that area. And one of the cooler products we have is called a pop-up NPC, a pop-up character. And this lets brands advertise in two ways. One is if you're Barbie and you want to advertise, if you're Mattel and you want to advertise Barbie, you can literally distribute a Barbie character across multiple games, and players can walk up to Barbie and chat with Barbie. Cool as is, but one of the great things about that is that dialogue we're collecting data on. So, Barbie can tell you about the dream house or about her friend and these other things, and we can show you how long players engage with that dialogue, how they respond to different questions, and brands have been loving that level of detail. And then using that same technology, we built out this survey character. So it's like a generic looking character. I kind of think of this as like you're walking in New York City and someone on the corner of the street is like, hey, can you, respond to this survey?
Who was not shooting heroin or kissing on the Victoria's Secret store. Yeah.
So in a game, like there's this character there, and players just organically walk up to this character, and it's a surveyor, and they say, we call them pollsters, and they'll ask, like, have you heard of these brands? What do you think of these brands? What is your favorite toy? Where do you discover new Roblox games? Things like that. And we, sometimes brands will proactively ask us to run a survey, and we do like brand lift studies and things like that. Or we do our own proactive studies just to help educate brands on what are the interests of kids on this platform.
Right, that makes sense. And going back to tech and AI, even in my company, as we design packaging, for example, we make sure that we utilize AI to understand how to design, how to market, how to develop a concept. We have the data and ways to show where your eyes are going, what font to use, what generation gravitates towards which kind of design, color, or illustration, where to place it within the packaging. And when speaking of retailers, Walmart, for example, just strongly advised that we remove all QR codes from packaging that don't take us to an individual landing page. They don't want kids to be thrown out to YouTube or to TikTok, even if it means watching a cool tutorial by a digital creator or an influencer. They are now harnessing all the data, driving everything to their pages and their metaverses so they have the power. Brian, as we try to create this Phygital Flywheel, where in a perfect world, everything I buy then unlocks content or gains me something in a game that I'm playing right now. Suddenly I can jump higher, faster, digital twins. And then that, I can take those points that I gain and translate them and cash them out in the real world for something, going back to the retailer or the brand. That's in a perfect world, but does every digital product need an in real life component and vice versa? Does every Elsa need a metaverse or a digital asset?
To answer that dead on, I think the answer is no. I don't think it's necessary. But I do believe that if you utilize the tools that are made available to you and get ahead of the curve, that you will be rewarded for figuring out unique and interesting and new novel ways to gamify the customer experience. So to tie this back to Web 2 primitives like AdWords and social marketing and streaming commerce and things like that, you may have a strong business today without having ever used those tools. And you never felt like you needed to, or maybe you second guessed yourself, but you still have a strong business. But perhaps you could have had a stronger business if you used those tools. But on the flip side of that, perhaps you could have stepped on some rakes and made a mess of your business if you didn't understand those tools. So it really comes down to you and where you project your customers will be eventually in the future. And to touch on something that Lisa brought up earlier, to like bring this back to what I'm saying here, she had mentioned VCon. Gary Vee famously had used AdWords to scale his pretty modest regional family-owned wine store into Facebook. That was how he got his start, how he really burst onto the scene as one of these entrepreneurial gurus. He was just ahead of the curve. He was buying AdWords for nothing. Cheap AdWords before the cost of acquisition shot through the roof, right? And I feel like we're in a very similar place right now with Web3. These primitives are extremely new. Of course, there will be grifters, opportunists, and even Bond villains who are looking to cause havoc, and we've seen that play out. But for those who understand the technology and can project where their customers may be, it can be beneficial to your business. But no, I don't think it's necessary to have to do it.
I can't agree more, and I'm so happy you said that. Not everything digital eventually also has to be on the blockchain, right? It doesn't mean it has to be minted. It doesn't need a component. For you, it just means more touch points. And when it comes to putting things on the block, that's a completely different ballgame. I'll shout out Quid, who has digital collectibles, and you can buy them. They still cost money, right? And you get to collect those digital assets. But then as the owner, as the collector, you have the power to decide, do you want them minted? Do you want to have full ownership on them and be able to trade them later or not? It really is up to you. So kind of thanks for spending your lunchtime with us, and hopefully you got to sink your teeth into something equally important. Just as a last morsel of thought, I'm going to throw one question out to you guys, and hopefully each can answer it. What is the one piece of advice to this audience that is obviously curious, understands that things are transitioning and changing, and want to figure out how they or their businesses fit into the world of digital and Web3? What would your pearls of wisdom be for them? Sam, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, mine's really simple. I would say just try it. Like everything we're talking about, Roblox, Minecraft, purchase your first NFT, open your first wallet. Just try these things, because a lot of people, it becomes this like abstract thing you talk about, and you're like, oh, I should do that, I should do this. But until you really try it and play around with it yourself, you can't really wrap your head around it.
Do it, dive in there. I know it's scary, it's uncomfortable, but do it. Mike?
It's like anything else. You test and learn. Using digital collectibles or virtual collectibles is easy. You don't have to create a product. You don't have to manufacture it. You don't have to have the supply chain ship it all over the world. You come out with a digital asset. Either people buy it or they don't buy it, but you'll get instant feedback on your product. And not everybody's going to love it. I mean, we've learned that we come out with a collectible, people, quality is not great, or this isn't what I wanted. But at the end of the day, you just move on to the next one. But test and learn. It's the easiest way to do it. And I think you can do it easier in the digital world than in the physical world.
Brian?
I too wanted to say try it, but not to go 3 for 3. I'll try to think of something else. Sharon, you spent a lot of time on this panel talking about how a lot of this information bubbles up from young people. I think taking young people more seriously, and not just every once in a while putting your ear to the ground to pick up clues, but making that a part of your media diet, making that a part of how you treat young people who may be in your household that you come across. They're the ones that are consuming this information and forming the trends. The amount of information, I don't have empirical data, but I think all of us would agree, the amount of information young people consume in a single day is probably more than we had consumed when we were their age, across like weeks and months. Like, they're just bombarded with information, they're processing that information, they're forming their views, and in turn forming trends. So I would say take young people very seriously and make it like a concerted part of your day, an effort to speak to young people.
Lisa?
Great advice. So the thing that I would share here is if you're looking to come into into emerging tech or Web3 or any part of, this new digital world, and you're a brand or a company, really making it something that is turnkey and easy for consumers to actually understand. Raise your hand if when you first heard about this new space, there was terminology that overwhelmed you, you were really confused, and you took a quick look and you just turned around and didn't want to get involved, right? I'm sure many of you would say that, right? So making it easy to understand. You don't have to use all the same terminology that was used when industries first started, right? Allowing people to get a digital collectible with their credit card. They don't need to necessarily use crypto, right? You can make it so it sets it up automatically in their wallet. I mean, there are things that you can do to make it user-friendly for consumers, and that's what I would say. Really speak to your consumers and use their language if you're entering these new spaces.
Aces. If you want it or not, it's the next generation. It's Gen Z and Gen Alpha that are rising up. They will have the purchasing power. That is your target audience. You can ignore it and fall by the wayside or figure out the right strategic partnerships. To Lisa's point, Brian, Mike, and Sam, all the lingo, the bro culture will go away. There was a lot of greed 2 years ago because people are shit. But now it's the smart people who are here to make sure that we survive this transition and that we really build brands to engage in the maximum form with their audience, converting fans to super fans and people who never heard about your brand to a whole new realm. Thank you, guys.